Yay! We are live, we are live, we are live, we are live. I know people are still obviously going to be joining us, but I think we can start either way because we have hard stop at 7 p.m. Hello everybody. Good evening. Well, if you are in South Africa, it's 18:01 p.m. If you are in other parts of the world, good morning, good day. Thank you for joining us, for the guys who are going to join us live, but also hello to the guys who are going to listen to this session post this live moment. So grateful to be able to partake in this Full Color Leader Series conversation. This is our, I believe, 13th installment, which I'm so grateful that we've been going for the last 2 years. This platform, really, the Full Color Leader Series conversations, is inspired by my book. I always need to. You guys see? Oh my gosh. Okay, I don't know if you can see properly, but it's inspired by my book, Thinking in Full Color. The subtitle for my book is Multicolored Ideas for Conversations. And I think when I was writing the book, I always knew in how I wrote it that I wrote provocations, I wrote statements, I wrote thoughts, I wrote questions that I wanted to trigger conversations that really make us more empathetic, make us ask deeper questions about our world. And this is an extension of that, of the book in a digital format. So I'm quite excited about today's conversation. Over and above my book, I do need to mention this because today's conversation, the title is The Church of Creativity. I know other people saw that, they were like, interesting topic. I do want to say another book that inspired the conversation for today is this book, the small pocket book. It's called Hegarty on Creativity. There Are No Rules, written by Sir John Hegarty, one of my favorite thinkers and creative minds. And yeah, really, I don't want to take up too much time in the intro, but creativity is one of those concepts that consume me. You know how other people get consumed by sports and I don't know, technology, whatever. I've always been fascinated and consumed by this concept of creativity, and I'm always indulging in various data points that talk to creativity, which leads me to my guest tonight. Thibedi. I met Thibedi. I met him I think over 2 years ago. I was invited to come.
I think it was just the year just before COVID.
Was it the year just before COVID?
Yeah,
Oh,
it was quite a while ago.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! It seems like just yesterday, but wow, we have wow. And so I met him there, but also I follow your body of work online, and I think for me, just love the way that you think, the way you articulate yourself. Particularly, maybe I'm also just obsessed with creatives in general. Just the way that your guys' minds think and are wired, and how you articulate and how you look at and experience the world is fascinating. So welcome to you.
Thank you, and welcome for the. Thank you for the intro, and thanks for inviting me to to your channel. I think I wanted to stop you right there. You know, when you say you guys, it's like when someone says, what do you call it? You people or you guys.
People, okay, yes.
You know, like I'm someone who really like believes in, and you say you've got a fascination with creatives. In my view, you've got a fascination with all humans.
And we're still gonna get into that. You're jumping the gun. You're jumping ahead of me. I love that. And, oh wow. Okay. Cool. Let me take a step back because there's an invocation that actually touches on that, and I think you will expand on that. But before we get into maybe the crux of the conversation, I always like to land, right, especially as Africans. We have a way in which we we land. It's like you don't just go to somebody's house and start opening the fridge. There's an
Yes.
acknowledgement of the other person's presence. That's why I love it in my language, isiZulu. When we greet umuntu, it's sanbonani or sawubona, which is like, I see you, I
Yeah.
acknowledge your presence. So I want to start by saying, maybe landing us with a bit of context around who are you? Like, where do you come from? Who are you? Where were you raised? Just for our audience to get a sense of who is this gentleman before
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
True. I mean, yeah, if I had to go deep, we could be here for the whole hour just talking about the history, because it's been a long life, I think about 38 years, with a lot of amazing activities and people, that I could talk about forever. But in a nutshell, I'd like to believe that, I'm one of those South Africans who potentially has the best of both worlds in terms of experiences in growing up, right? Grew up in a township in Lewachomu, which is in Limpopo, then also moved to the small town of Polokwane, which was it's a very slow pace, much different to what it is when you get to Joburg. And I came here, like many people after finishing high school. We're chasing the dream, Mama
Yes,
and all of that.
yes.
And having spent, I think, about 20 years in Joburg, I look at the two and I'm like, I've actually spent two halves of my life, one in a really slow-paced environment that was really, really nurturing. And then the second part in the really fast-paced and the hustler mentality and mindset and the vibe of what Joburg is. And it's something that I find, helps me quite a lot in my creative expression in the work that I do. Coming from a small town and living in a big city for such a long time. Essentially, that adds to my character as a creative. And I said to you before, I believe that everyone is born creative, but some people spend more time nurturing that craft and honing that skill, which I've done in the advertising industry for about the past 15 years. I started off studying graphic design, and it's a weird thing. And this has always, been something about my character, and that if I find something that I really like and I'm passionate about, I'm not willing. I'm not afraid to start from scratch, right? So my journey in school is that I studied graphic design, but in the last year there was a course for copywriting, and that was my first exposure to copywriting, and it was really one module that lasted about 6 months. But it's the most I felt alive in that whole graphic design course for 3 years.
Oh,
And I decided right then and then when I graduated that I'm not going to be a designer, a graphic designer. But this is also true to how much designers struggle and how much it is a labor of love, right? I have to put my hat off to graphic designers, because you physically have to be present on the job, and it requires a lot of action. What I found about myself is that I live more in my head. I'm more of a thinker. I'd rather think for 10 hours and execute for 1 hour, you know? Whereas
yeah,
design, you have to execute for the whole 10 hours.
yeah.
So those guys do really amazing. So it was a bold thing for me to do, I feel, and I've always felt, go where your passion lies, go with what really excites you and inspires you. So I put down my degree and I packed it away. I still have a deep appreciation for art and graphic design, but I became a copywriter when I started in advertising. And it took a while for me to find my job, because no one wanted to hire a copywriter who didn't study copywriting but has a BA degree in graphic design.
Wow.
And
Sure.
it took knocking on doors and doors until finally someone gave me a chance at an agency which is now big, but it was a startup agency at the time. And I haven't looked back since. And through those years, I've worked at numerous agencies in Joburg. Gone all the way through the ranks up to what you can typically get to the top of the chain in the creative studio, which is Chief Creative Officer, which was my previous job that I recently left to start my own agency, which is Creative Life Studio. And I am, how many days is it now? I'm 33 days into self-employment. And it's exciting.
Sure.
That's me in a
Wow.
nutshell, without belaboring the point.
No, well, no, I think so well explained. I'm curious though, you spoke about coming from a small village, and then moving to Polokwane, which is one of my favorite places in this country, actually, and I think one of the unsung places in this
Yeah,
country.
yeah.
Polokwane. I've had an opportunity to spend some time there. But like usually, and again, this is a big assumption. Uh, as an African child, as a Black child, I mean, I'm from KwaZulu Natal, one of the provinces, Durban. We, in those communities, we are usually encouraged to study either the STEM, the science,
Yes.
degrees, or accounting, because those are considered, you will have a job for life.
Yeah.
I'm curious around how were you exposed to even graphic design? What was the
Yeah.
conversation at home to say, actually, this is the path that I want to take
Yeah.
in terms of my career?
Look, so it's been one of those things that I think has been a passion of mine for such a long time. So what I knew for a fact growing up is that I enjoyed working with my hands. I enjoyed drawing. I mean, when I was watching cartoons, I would literally have a pen and paper drawing those cartoons as I'm watching them. You know what I mean? And there were friends who do similar things. So, I used to gravitate towards those kind of friends. When it came time to choosing classes, it was just a basic conversation that like, I'm really into art and this is what I want to do. So I did art all the way in high school. And I think I was fortunate enough at least to have parents who heard me out, and they weren't forcing me, to do things that I didn't want to do. I think that support is so crucial, Yeah. So when it came time to choose, look, I think there's also something that happened quite naturally and organically, in that by the time when I was supposed to go to varsity, it was a matter of having had a hard year in matric. There was a loss in the family at the time, and I wasn't really focused on getting into varsity. And I actually wanted to take a gap year, right? Because I felt like I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. But as luck would have it, I suppose fate will play out the way it's meant to play out. But I was really planning on taking a gap year after high school, and my father wasn't having that. All the conversations. You can study whatever you want, but he wasn't going to have a conversation about a gap year. You know what I mean?
What's that?
What's that? So he took me and he said, listen, there's a school I found in Midrand. We're gonna go. They're taking late applications, late registrations and whatnot. And then I just looked at the courses, but again, I wasn't in that frame of mind to say I'm really amped to go study right now. But this guy's forcing me. But when it came time to make the choice and I could see what was available on offer, I said, oh, okay, this looks interesting to me. It's a creative field. I know that I'm talented to some degree with my hands and drawing and skills, So I took that, and like I said, what you learn in that process is what ultimately got me here. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Wow, beautiful. All right. No, thank you so much for just giving us a bit of context, because I think it's always so important for people to understand one story, because we meet you here, but there's a whole journey that got you here, right? So I want us to get into the meat of the conversation, and the topic. As I mentioned, that the topic for today is titled "The Church of Creativity." So there's some definitions I want to read out, and
Yes.
then conclude around why, or rather put out a thought around why I put these two together. So I want to start by separating the word church and then the word creativity. So I'll read out some definitions I found that I thought were interesting. There's a lot of definitions, but for the reason of this conversation, I chose these ones. So the first one, the church definition, it says, the English word church has a number of meanings, most of which are religious. But the word church comes from the Greek word ecclesia. And it is often, and that's where the translation of the word church comes from. Non-Christians in the first century wouldn't have thought of the word church in a religious word. To them, it simply meant a gathering or an assembly. And then it also says here, in the New Testament, ecclesia is sometimes used in a very extraordinary way, as per reference in Acts, which being one of the books in the Bible, Acts 19, verse 32, which means more often than not, something that is used for something new. Another definition says the word church means, ecclesia in Greek means the called out ones. So notice the themes: assembly, something new, the called out ones. Okay, creativity. Some of the definitions of creativity that I found was creativity is characterized by the ability to perceive the world in new ways. Another definition says creativity is the process of bringing something new into being. Another one says creativity is a combination of force. It's the ability to tap into our inner pool of resources, knowledge, insight, information, inspiration, and all the fragmented fragments that are populating our minds. And then another one that I really thought was fascinating is creativity requires passion and commitment. Right. So for me, when I thought of the word, oh, because I remember hearing this a long time ago, that the word church comes from the Greek word, or was derived from the Greek word ecclesia. And if you understand the historical context without looking at Christianity or the Bible as a religious institution as we've come to know, just if you engage with it as a curious literature, like how we would engage with Shakespeare or any other great literature, just if we just meet each other there. A lot of the times, when we forget that people who lived in the past would not have had the vocabulary to things that we have now. So when the Christian movement started, it was a very new thing, right? And hence it was called like ecclesia, because it was like, we've never seen this before. What's going on? These people are speaking in a new way, they're dressing in a new way, the way they're doing things is different. So even this idea of creativity, being able to see new thing, being able to see patterns and bringing about something new from what is existing. So that's where really the church of creativity comes into play. But I'm curious to hear from you, Tibbs, around what came to your mind when you saw that topic.
Sure. I mean, look, I think depending on where you grew up and what kind of grandmother you had,
Yeah.
when the word church comes up, it can evoke certain feelings or emotions. So I think on that part it's different for all of us. But
Yeah.
to be quite fair, when I heard the title, The Church of Creativity, I mean, I took it simply as that it's how do I put it? Obviously the word religion came to mind. And I think the thing that I resonated with the most is that it's true in that if you are going to be or consider yourself to be someone who is really creative, it takes practice.
Mm.
It
Mm.
takes religious practice. It takes commitment. Like I think that's another word that you mentioned. You have to turn it into a habit. In
Yeah.
the same way that going to church is a habit.
Yeah.
It's religious, but it's a trained muscle, and you almost have to read your creative Bible every day if you're
Yeah.
going to be working, in that space.
Yeah. Oh wow, so well explained. Yeah, wow. Profound. I like that. So I want the conversation there, because and now I want us to really get into I think the more fun parts of this conversation. And how I wanted to run this conversation, especially even for our audience who are joining us and the guys who've always been part of these series, they would have noticed that in the past I would have a set of questions that I'll ask the guest, and then the guest will have to answer. Like, it will be more open-ended questions, for lack of a better term. But because this is a creative conversation, for lack of a better word, I have put together what I call 22 creative invocations.
Okay.
And it's really it's statements, it's myths, it's questions, it's thoughts. And I'm gonna throw them to Thibedi. I'm hoping that he's gonna answer them quickly in a fun, because I want us to keep it fun and still engaging. And also, I want to invite the audience. When I throw out a statement, you guys can either, say answer yes, no, or even expand on what you think, right? And at the end of the 22, we will give an opportunity, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, if there's any questions that have popped up, for Tibbs to answer. All right, Tibbs, are you ready? Because
yeah, it's okay. What's the prize? What do I get if I get all 22 answers correct?
Hey! Hey!
I'll take a signed copy of your book. Thanks.
That's the thing. In fact, that's the thing. That's of course. Okay, cool. No, that's I should have actually mentioned that off the call. That's part of this package of you being a guest.
Okay, awesome.
Alrighty, cool. All right. Okay. The first statement is okay, cool. So basically, I'm gonna read out the statement or the question or the myth, and then it's either you're gonna say yes, no, or there's more to the statement. If there's more, then you'll expand in terms of why it's not a yes or a no, because not everything in life is yes or no. Right? Okay. Cool. The first invocation is: creativity is a gift, a skill, both or neither.
The skill, a gift, both or neither.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. It is both a gift and a skill. But I want to expand on that by saying, like to my point earlier, that gift is given to everyone.
Okay.
Because for me, what I've always found, if we speak about creativity, and this is a comment that I'll say it everywhere I go, is that everyone has the ability to create. When I look at the word creativity, it's the ability to create. And I always say, when you've got a problem, when you need a solution, that is you being creative, when you come up with a solution. So even like, the surgeons who have had to figure out a way to create something new for them to be able to service their patients better. We call them surgeons, but they're creatives.
Yeah.
The lawyer who's going to get you off because he found a loophole around the law, and they managed to figure a new way of forming a conversation or an argument. You call them a lawyer, but they're being creative in that moment. So everyone has that gift, everyone has that skill. It's just how you put it into action.
Okay, that's brilliant. So then I suppose the next invocation is obvious, but we'll still read it. All human beings are creative. Yes, no. So
yes.
Okay, cool. Now this might get me in trouble. I don't know. This third one. I'll preempt it by saying, have you ever noticed that some of the best designers, fashion designers in the world are men? Some of the sexiest and most beautiful shoes in the world are designed by men. Some of the best hairstylists in the world. Like, I know some of my favorite, most of the people who do my hair really well when I'm doing hair are men. So I've always been curious. Men are more creative than women. Yes.
No, that's a straight hard no.
Okay.
Look, I don't think it's specific to gender. You mentioned fashion. You mentioned these amazing female fashion designers, and I find, especially in this country, the best also might be the best graphic designers I've worked with, funny enough, are women, but also specifically Afrikaans women. It's a weird thing, right?
Wow.
Wow. So I think it's if you're gonna call it on gender, I'd say definitely not. No one is more creative. There's a story that I like about again, going back to the point about how we're all creative. It all comes down to how curious you are to unlock that creativity and to make it work, right? So there's a story about, and I don't know how true it is, or because it's a retelling, but the story about how Newton led to his discovery about gravity, is that he was sitting under a tree and then an apple fell, and then that's what led him there. I don't know, look at it, I'm like, Newton, this guy didn't have a job.
Yeah.
He was a bum. It's just who sits under a tree all day and does nothing,
Yeah.
right? And again, you might be sitting there in your own job, feeling helpless, feeling like nothing is going on, waiting for your apple to drop. Now, the key difference is that it wasn't the first time that someone saw an apple drop, right?
Mm.
But it was the first time someone got curious enough about why the apple was dropping that led to this, right? So you are going to be faced, man or woman, you're going to be
Sure.
seeing a lot of things around you in life that are just ideas waiting for you to be curious about, enough for you
Sure.
to turn it into something.
Yeah.
So now maybe the question then is, and I don't know if this is proven true or not, because your question was, are men more creative than men?
Yeah.
Are men more curious than women? Are women more curious than men? I don't know. Maybe that's the basic foundation of your idea, because like I said, everyone is creative. I think equally creative, but
Yeah.
who's more curious and who wants to discover things more is
Yeah.
what actually leads to those eureka moments,
Mm. Sure. Wow. And even what you're saying about like Newton and the apple dropping, and that many people had well, they had seen, but
Yeah.
there's a big difference between seeing and noticing. Do you
Mm.
understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Noticing is that curiosity point, that moment of, and I think some of the best creative outputs in the world are birthed
Mm.
from people who pause and notice.
Yes,
And
yes.
so yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you for bringing that in. Okay, cool. There's still a lot to go through, so I'm gonna rush. Empathy is the foundation of great creative outputs.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
You absolutely have to understand what your audience or your customer is going through for you to be able to create a solution that's going to solve their problems, without a
Mm,
doubt.
beautiful. Okay. This one, I'm curious to hear your response. There is no such thing as an original idea or a creative output. Ideas draw from what exists and borrow from each other.
True. I'd say yes. There's even a quote that says, I can't remember who said it. Are good artists borrow,
Mm,
artists steal, or something
mm,
to that effect. But essentially, yeah, you have to draw on. I mean, your on inspirations of life, looking at what's around you and things like that. It is one of those things that we say in the industry all the time, is that there's nothing new under the sun.
yeah.
Um, and I don't think that's completely true. We're just limited in that there's so many things that have been done already, right? So, and I think that's where the keyword now innovation comes into play, right? To innovate, you have to be creative.
Mm,
But I think innovation is more of the buzzword nowadays, because what we are doing is constantly improving on what has already been created, right? So, sure, we're not creating new things all the time, but I think the opportunity for us as creatives is to always innovate. Something
yeah,
does exist, but we can borrow from that or steal from that and make it better. Absolutely.
yeah. Beautiful. Okay. And then another one. All ideas and creative outputs are good for humanity or humanity's progress.
No, that is a big one.
It's a
And
big,
you
like
know
you
what the
just said that, no, no.
no. And you know what the funny thing is, like,
Yeah.
there's so many things in the world that we don't consider to be ideas, but they are, because they were born out of people's thoughts and things like that, right?
Mm.
So war as a concept, war is an idea.
Mm.
But
Sure,
but is it
sure,
but is it good for humanity?
sure.
Someone had the idea of, we're going to
Wow,
resolve this through conflict or whatever it is. It's an
wow,
idea. There's so many things that you see in your daily life happening.
wow.
Everything around you comes from an idea, whether
Sure.
whether it's tangible or not, whether you
Yeah,
can hold it or you can't. And I think that's the one thing that I always try to look out for, is ideas in everything. Who came up
yeah,
with this thought of
yeah,
X? And to your point, no, not all ideas are good for humanity.
yeah. Wow. Thank you for even expanding my own concept of what an idea is, because that's so brilliant. That was so brilliant, because I mean, I when I read books, or I mean, I watch webinars, and I'm sure you do as well, or go to events. A lot of the time, there's a monopoly on the word idea. It's almost like we over saturated with like an iPhone, a laptop, the internet, and we fail to see like actually things like war, a concept like that. It's an idea somebody came up with. Actually, we are going to go conquer these people because they've done X, Y, and Z. Oh, so that is ooh, that just expanded my thinking. Wow, thank you for that. Okay, cool. And then creativity, you probably have answered this, but we'll read it anyway. I think you have. But creativity is only reserved for fields such as advertising, fashion, entertainment, social media, artistry.
Yeah, that's a hard no, and I've already touched on that. So we can move
Okay,
on to the next one.
okay. Real life experiences feed and shape a creative person's work and outlook.
Yes, undeniably, I think you can't deny that your experiences will inform, a number of things on how you approach creativity. Even like your appetite for curiosity and all of that stuff can be
Mm,
influenced by your upbringing and things like that. So, like I said, the basic principle is that if you're all born in this thing, and if you look at a child, if you're going to feed a child and nourish a child, they're going to grow and they're going to grow up to be a strong, healthy person.
mm, mm,
Creativity is no different, right? So everything that you feed into that creativity that you're born into, right? Where what we call inspiration, where people draw inspiration, could be the food that you give to your creativity. Where you go, whether you attend art galleries, whether you attend concerts,
mm,
you're a big fan of anime, whether you read books, right? All
mm,
those things and all those experiences will in some way influence how your
mm.
creative the thing that you're born with grows and is nurtured.
Beautiful.
But if
Wow.
you don't feed it, and if you don't, then you will miss a lot of things and it won't impact your work.
Wow. Okay. All right. Sometimes great creative. Okay. This one, I really want to hear your thoughts. Sometimes great creative campaigns come at the expense of ethical considerations. Example, pushing advertising campaigns about unhealthy foods to children.
Ooh, I need to replay that one. I need to hear that question again.
Sometimes great
Sometimes.
creative campaigns, great
Mhm.
creative campaigns come at the expense of ethical considerations. For example, pushing advertising campaigns about unhealthy foods to children.
Yeah. So, look, I would take a step back on that one. I don't want to say yes or no, but I will expand.
Mm.
And I think the way that you position the question is in context to advertising agencies, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I don't know. I wanna defend my people here. It's because at some point
Yeah,
at some point we all have different values. But the
yeah.
reason most people get into business and all these things obviously is to make money, right?
Mm,
Um, and I would take that question and put it to the guys who are creating the food that's not healthy for children. Maybe let's start.
hmm.
Let's
Yeah,
start there.
yeah,
Who should take the burn for
yeah,
the effort at this point, right? They're trying to
yeah.
make a buck. They come to us, we make a buck. And unfortunately, it's how the world is, right?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
these organizations exist; they will always exist, whether
Mhm.
you're the agency creating the work for the big bad guys, or whether you're the big bad guys who are creating the food that's not good for children.
Mm.
That's why there's regulations on all these things in place. But I think ultimately, if we're going to speak about individual creatives, you do have, I suppose, the agency to walk away from such situations.
Yeah.
Um, I was astonished. One of my great mentors, and I learned something
Mm.
in this about it really comes down to you as an individual, and what you're
Yes,
willing to participate in,
yes.
right? I got to an agency, I think about 8 years ago, where I met an amazing mentor of mine. and because of his religious beliefs, right,
Mm.
you wouldn't work on alcohol brands.
Yes, yes, yes.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
So there for him, the ethical thing was to step away from these
yeah,
kind of beefs, and he doesn't do that. But again, it's a sample of one, right? And that's why I say it's really down to the individual, because
yeah.
again, these organizations will keep making alcohol, and we'll
Yes,
keep buying it, and those who
yeah,
advertise it and make money off it will still keep doing that. So
yeah.
it's a hard question to pose, and I suppose
Mm.
burden on organizations or agencies. I'd say
Yes,
in that instance, it's down to the creator as an individual. What do you stand for? If you really don't
yeah.
believe in something, and you can't go to bed at night, that's on
Mm.
you. And I think then you should step away.
Wow. So well answered. So well answered. You reminded me of another gentleman. He's I think he was, yeah, he's the CMO, and I was listening to a talk he was giving, and he's a, you probably know him. It's just that I won't mention people's names, but like he was saying that he's been headhunted by big corporations in the alcohol space, but he's refused the jobs with good money.
Mm,
And but he's also was his advocacy, or especially to us the younger generation, because I think he's in his 50s, was saying that this is why we must make sure we are financially free, because he
mm,
was saying when you're financially free, don't have to be rich, big difference, but when you're
mm,
financially free, like as in you have enough and you're living within your means, there are certain things you can say no to. Even if you're working in a corporate, you can,
mm,
there's certain things you can say no to. Even if you're building your own small business, there's certain things you can say no to because it clashes with your values.
yes.
So I really love how you articulated that, because sometimes we attempt to boil the ocean and we can't.
Yeah.
Because these big corporations, they're making money and they know that there's agencies who are willing to take that on,
Mm,
but maybe at the individual level I can make a difference. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so you can't be creative when you're stressed.
Oh, yes and no. The best way to create is, yes, to be at your most relaxed state.
Mm,
Uh, and there's something that we call relaxed attention. And you might have heard this before. The best ideas come when you're in the shower.
yes.
And
Yeah.
and there's a book I read where they advocate for daydreaming, and I've always said, I love it when I watch and I see my children daydreaming. I'm like, oh, there's a creative,
Mm,
or something, or a creative soul is being fed at that moment in time, because
sure.
your brain tends to make cognitive leaps or breakthroughs when
Mm,
you're not completely obsessed with a challenge and you're focusing so
sure.
hard on the challenge. So when you step back and you relax, ideas will come to you. But
Wow.
it doesn't mean that you can't perform under pressure and when you're stressed. It happens. I think if you're intentional about getting ideas, you can still get ideas when you're stressed. But the best way is definitely in a relaxed attention state,
Yeah.
where you've got something to figure out, but you're not obsessing about it
Yes.
100%. Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. All right. Content creation in the form of like reaction videos, like TikTok reaction videos, vlogs, is the death of pure creativity.
Oh no. Oh no, 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 not at all.
Okay.
Um, I mean, spend 30 minutes on TikTok and just watch a lot of things. Like,
Yeah.
the content creators on that platform are so creative.
Mm. Yeah.
Some of the most creative I've ever seen. I often look at these guys. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
you would kill it in
That's
advertising. You
that
would
is
be
so
you would be amazing in advertising, because your
yeah.
mind just works in a certain way that is like, you get the culture, you get people, you've
Yeah.
got really great influences. You are the market and you understand the market. So sometimes people are just missing opportunities, but that for me is not the death of creativity. It's an outlet. It's what creativity needs.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because sometimes when I'm like maybe going through something, I'll log into maybe Instagram or say TikTok video, and I'm like, I am blown away.
Yeah,
How did you come up with that? And I would start laughing, and it just heals my soul.
yeah,
So yeah, I love that. Okay, cool. Failure is a crucial part of the creative process.
yes,
Okay.
absolutely. There's a, the thing I've always had in advertising, um, and I don't know, it wasn't taught, and or no one taught it to me, but I've always believed it, and then I saw it in action. Um, I've always thought there's more in the tank. You
Mm,
know, there's a if this idea doesn't work out, there's another one. If this idea
yeah.
doesn't work out, there's another one. And that's how it is. It's about going through the process. I think it was Linus Pauling, and I love his teachings. He's a chemist, but he also comments on creativity, and he said the best way to have a good idea is to have many ideas.
Mm,
That means
mm,
you're gonna go through 10 ideas that have failed, and then one will
mm,
hit. But you have
mm,
you have to stay in motion.
mm.
So absolutely, and the more you fail, the more you know what works and what doesn't. So
Wow, that's brilliant. Okay, cool. Forgiveness. Okay, this is goes to the next page. Forgiveness has to be a fundamental value of a creative. You must forgive yourself a lot as a creative and be willing to rethink certain ideas or beliefs you once held dearly. I think you touched on that. So, but if you want to
yeah.
expand further, okay.
No, yeah, so I mean the word forgiveness throws me off, and maybe it's just the way I'm inclined. It's like it's your duty to look further, to dig deeper.
Why does
Yeah,
it throw you off? Why does the word forgiveness? Mm.
because I don't know, because it implies that you might have done something wrong. And
Oh,
there's
okay.
nothing there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong there's nothing wrong in exploration. There's nothing wrong in
Ah,
trying to figure out. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm like, it's your duty to dig deeper.
ah,
It's your duty to
mm,
mess up, fail, and
okay. I
because
like that.
that's how
Yeah,
you come correct. Yeah,
I like that. I like that insight. Okay, cool. All right,
yeah,
I'm going to read a quote now from Sir John Hegarty. As I said that I also read, this is one of my favorite books, and
yeah,
um,
yeah.
my obsession even with creativity is one of those thinkers for me. And he says, at the foundation of any great idea is the truth, the most powerful force in creativity.
Yes, the truth. Absolutely, I believe in that. And, we call it the human truth. We call it an insight. It touches back on the conversation you were having earlier about having empathy, right?
Yeah.
So what that is like, and I'm gonna use a lay example.
Mm.
Back in the day, the truth was it hurts to walk barefoot, right?
Mm.
The idea that came out of that is a shoe. You,
Mm.
you get
Mm.
what I mean? So that's an insight. The human truth is a lived experience, and then creatively, how do you solve for that?
Yeah. Yeah. You're reminding me of also the retelling as of the story with around the shoe. Even again, going back to this idea of noticing opportunity. You remember
Yes,
the story? Well, I think it's a story I've heard when we were in high school, university, where when they sent the first colonizers to come to the continent, and then a shoe company rather sent, and then they're like, is there an opportunity? One came, gave a report and said, ah, no, send the shoe back, send the shoes back. These people don't wear shoes. Another actually sent a report to say, yes, so much opportunity. These people don't wear shoes. So let's teach them how to wear shoes. Two different perspectives, and they opened a whole new market.
yeah,
By actually seeing opportunity in or the other guy seeing opportunity in terms of saying they may not have access to the product. It's like Henry Ford saying, if I had asked people what do they want, they would have said more faster horses. But he created a whole new product by
exactly.
inventing Model T. Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. Sometimes the best creative campaigns come from a place of being angry or concerned about a particular social issue.
Um, yes, but I would phrase that as having a passion for a certain topic.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. Okay.
such harsh words. I
Silence.
don't know words like forgive and
I
anger.
can see that you're like, hey, you like Like, hey, let's land this thingy, which is great. Silence is a great incubator of creativity.
Yes, but so is dialogue and discourse.
Mm,
Yeah, so it works both. And
mm,
also again, it depends on who you are.
mm,
It's good to ideate and think and conceptualize in isolation, but
mm,
you'll get better results and get to
mm,
the end product quicker with more minds having
mm.
dialogue and conversation. Absolutely.
Wow. Okay, so like a multi-blended approach.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Oh wow. Okay. Okay. This is another quote. Is again, why, WHY, the word why, is the most important word you'll ever use as a creative person.
True.
Okay.
It goes back to curiosity.
Yeah.
Newton, why did the apple fall?
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
And one of
Okay.
the bees, you know?
Another quote by Sir John Haggerty: creativity is not an occupation, it's a preoccupation.
Yes. You like I said, you constantly have to be preoccupied with being aware of your surroundings, of opportunities, of your inspirations, right? It's absolutely that. You know, whether you're relaxed or whether you are like I do believe if you are tuned into your creative self, which we all have once again,
Yeah.
everything almost becomes like a game to you. It's so weird when you have that outlook, and and it's like let me put it to you like this, right? And we tend to be so numb to what's immediately around us that we forget to look for these
Mm,
opportunities. And I'll use the example of a traveler, right? When you go to a new city or you go to a new country,
mm,
I guarantee you, even if you're just walking down, you will take slower walks and you will look at everything, every single
mm.
thing, and try to consume every single thing,
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
You will be so preoccupied with every single bit of detail. Now, when you hear back in Joburg and you're just walking around Sandton, there's a statue of Mandela. Like, why do I need to look at that thing again? You know,
Yeah. I've seen
um,
it.
so creativity requires you to be like the traveler. You
Mm,
always have to be preoccupied and open and
mm,
looking out for these opportunities and seeing,
mm,
inspiration. It's everywhere. Like, go to
mm,
the same building, but look at it five different ways or from
mm,
five different
mm,
angles.
mm, mm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree with that statement.
Okay. Wow. You reminded me of something that John Higgins said in his book. He said that he bans the younger generation. I mean, obviously this is an old man now, but like like let's say interns coming in, he bans them from listening to headphones. Let's say you're coming in from the bus station or from your car, because he says that you are disconnecting yourself from
Right.
a moment of brilliance, from a moment of magic,
Yeah.
because moments of magic, the world is always speaking to
Yeah.
us,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the minute you zone out, especially as a person who works in the creative industry, you are disconnecting your data points. So I just thought that was so phenomenal. It's
Yeah.
just saying it's building on that. Yeah.
Try it on long distance drives. Next time you go to KZN, don't switch on the radio and just drive. Especially if you're on your own.
Yeah.
But
And
isolation,
yeah, I've done that. And to be honest, some of my best ideas have come from that.
yeah,
Just,
it's that
just,
isolation you're speaking about. You're silencing everything, but take
yeah.
those thoughts and then go have conversations with people, and you'll be amazed
Mm,
what happens.
wow. Sure. Okay. All right. Creativity respects and responds to discipline action.
Respects discipline action.
And it respects and responds to disciplined action.
No, I'm gonna say no. I disagree, and I'm like I don't think it needs unpacking.
Okay. All
Uh,
right.
it feels anti-creativity to be guardrailed and you know
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. All right. It's always important for a creative to have fun as a value, as their personal value.
It's always
Important for a creative to have fun as a personal value.
Yes, yes, yes. You must play, especially when it comes to ideas. Like
Yeah,
allow yourself to be silly. Like I said, it's you have to go through the process, man.
yeah.
You we've got this visual of people thinking, and it's these hard faces, and it's you know,
Yeah,
and sometimes you find yourself on a deadline, and you'll be thinking like that, and I have to catch myself
mm,
sometimes. Like, you know what,
yeah.
your best ideas are not gonna come that way
Yes, yes,
because
yes,
you're not relaxed. You'll get ideas, but they won't be your best.
yes.
It is quite important to play and not take everything so seriously, because the more you do, the simpler ideas come to you, and those are the ones that work.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. I've noticed that as well. Like when I'm in my moment of just being silly and enjoying myself. And you're right, those are some of the best ideas when you're not. Of course, there's still a level of excellence, still a level of work, but just having fun and enjoying what you're
Yeah.
doing yourself, your best ideas are birthed through that. All right, cool. We're almost done. Culture shaping creative outputs. Okay, this one is a big statement. Culture shaping creative outputs are 100% inspiration and 100% execution.
Sure. I mean, I think definitely all those things go into it, but there's probably a whole lot more.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you could unpack inspiration as, insight, the passion that we spoke about, or the anger that you spoke about earlier, to change things or turn things around.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I think it's those two words are absolutely correct. But then you would
yeah,
double click. There's lots that go into even those.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I suppose the thinking around this was, uh, sometimes the people think, "Oh, I have these," especially in the world that we live in, right? Like you can come up with great ideas, but for me, I always think that there's a magic to execution. So
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people who are great
Yeah.
ideas, and you'll be having a braai or whatever, and then they'll tell you about all the ideas they have. But there's a magic in execution. I don't know how to explain it. There's the
No, no,
big,
I get you absolutely, but I mean, going back to that, double click on the word execution,
yeah,
right? It's dedication, it's
yes,
craft, it's hours, it's
yes,
collaboration, it's
yes. I love
it
Yeah,
takes a whole lot. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So I think in essence you've done a great job in unpacking it for us, where it's not just the idea of, oh, I have this idea, but are you
mm,
willing to put in the craftsmanship, the time, the collaboration, the
yeah.
failing, and taking those lessons, yeah, from what you think the failure is trying to teach you, even though I know you don't like certain words, but but yeah, for me, I still advocate for the magic or the interfacing of both of those
Yeah.
realities. Yeah.
On
Okay.
failure, I don't think like creativity doesn't fail, but we often fail our creative beings, and
Mm,
that's what it is. Yeah.
okay. All right. Final one, and then I think we might have two questions oh, okay, I think it's more this one question. Okay, cool. This last invocation, a great idea or creative output. Oh, okay. A great idea or a creative output creates its own time in the clock of humanity.
Creates its own time
Time. Mhm.
in the clock of humanity.
Mm.
Yeah, yes, and I think if you look at like the great things that have happened in the past,
Yeah,
I mean, those ideas go down in history books. There's a reason why you referenced Henry Ford.
yeah,
There's a reason why we speak about the invention of the wheel.
yes,
Um,
yes,
there's channels and documentaries dedicated to these things. So absolutely, I think great ideas will go down in history. That's just the way it is.
yeah. Love that. Love that so much. And I think for me, what is so profound about this is also the caution around, we live in a time, okay, without trying to be make big assumptions, where sometimes people think you must create what people know. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
sometimes exactly that iconic, culture shaping, history making things are things that don't exist. So
Mm,
you
mm,
bring you bring it, you call it from wherever it is to say, come now, it is your time.
yeah.
And yeah, I'm fascinated by this idea of an idea creating its own time. All right, Tibbs, we're almost done. There's just a comment and a final question from our audience. A comment is like, "Hi Bong, stimulating conversation as usual. Thank you for the words of wisdom. Thibedi's way of thinking is refreshing." That's a compliment for you. True indeed, Tibbs. Brilliant,
Thank you.
brilliant. And then a question to you, Tibbs. Are there any tips that he can share with us on how we can cultivate or perfect? Oh, this is a loaded question. Any tips that he can share with us on how we can cultivate or perfect ideas and skills in order to achieve successful? I think they meant in order to achieve success, I suppose,
Yes,
in
yes, yeah.
creative undergoings or
Yeah.
professions. Yeah.
Okay, tips on how to cultivate perfect ideas and skills in order to achieve success. Look, this is a hard one, and I can also, speak from my perspective. But there's lots of books that have been written about creativity, how to nurture it, and things like that. Um, but I think the best piece of advice I can give, or the best tip I can give, is something that I've always believed. Right, I think if you're going to succeed and make something of your ideas, the
Mm.
first thing that you need to get right is have an abundance mentality. Right,
Oh,
you have
wow.
you have to believe that there are more ideas where that one came from,
Oh, wow.
because when you don't find success with one idea, you can easily fall back and get knocked down and feel like, oh, I'm not creative enough. And like I said before, you have to have many ideas until you get the good one.
Mm.
The best way is to really, really come up with more ideas. You'll learn better how to judge your ideas, how to value ideas, but also another good way is to share your ideas, right? And that's
Mm.
also speaking to your abundance mentality. If you're too scared to share your ideas, um, because you don't believe there'll be another one and this is the only one that you're going to have, I think you're
Mm.
dead in the water as a creative. You
Oh,
really have to have an abundant mentality. There's things that you need to do, obviously. If you've got an amazing idea that you think you work, patent it or make sure people sign NDAs so that you're not giving away your IP. But
mm.
it does help to talk to people about your ideas and get their input.
Mm.
If you think you're going to do it on your own, or perfect your ideas on your own, I'm sorry, I've seen instances where you come up with the genesis of an idea, but in a
Mm.
conversation with someone, they could open up your mind to actually how big your idea can be or what direction it could take.
That is
Um,
so, yeah.
and you end up at a point where you didn't think you would, and far more different to where you started because you got insight from someone else.
Mm.
So that's it. Like, really, have an abundance mentality. Don't think this is your last idea. Don't think you will never have another idea again. Um, Ideas are meant to live, and the more you can get out into the world, the better. But again, share your ideas, talk to people, consult, collaborate. You know, you
Yeah.
will have more ideas. That won't be your last.
Beautiful. I share the same philosophical idea, well, I suppose belief around ideas are meant to live. On that note, and sharing your ideas, my book is birthed from that. Had this idea, and guys, again, if you want to get the book, Thibedi, you will courier your personal. But if you want
Thank
to
you.
get the book, it's available on my website. If you want the signed copy on Pin the Vision website. If you're outside of South Africa, it's available on Amazon. And so you can get the book there. But yeah, Thibedi, I thank you so much. This has been so incredible. Thank you for indulging us with your wisdom. Oh, you have such a brilliant mind. Appreciate how you articulate yourself. Are there any concluding thoughts from your side? Maybe it could be how people can get a hold of you, what the work, if you want to share the work you do at Creative Life Studio, anything. This is before we close off. Yeah, I want to give you that opportunity.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the only thing is, yeah, you can find Creative Life Studio underscore ZA on Instagram, Creative Life Studio on LinkedIn. My personal profile is under my name, Thibedi Meso, on Instagram or LinkedIn. I'm always available to chat, or if it's about creativity, about ideas, I'll take the call. And the last thing I want to share with the audience and everyone is, I mean, it goes back to part of the conversation we're having earlier, just about whether people are born creative or not. There's a book I want to recommend to the audience. A friend of mine gifted it to me a couple of years ago. I'm actually started rereading it last month. It's called Creative Confidence. It's by Tom Kelly and David Kelly, who are two brothers, and it underscores unleashing the creative potential within us all. Right? What I loved about it is that it's that fundamental belief that everyone is creative. You just have to put in the time. Again, it also what I loved when I read the book. I mean, I felt like I was reading my own mind in a lot of the parts of the book. Not to blow my own horn, but they spoke about people were being creative in different fields and things like that. And again, to your point, don't call us, those guys or
Those people.
there's that creative potential in all of us.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Beautiful. So on that note, thank you so much, everybody. If you're in South Africa, as I said, have a great evening. If you're in other parts of the world, enjoy your day, enjoy your morning. Tibbs, bless you, sir. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right. Cheers, everybody. God bless.
Thanks for having me. Cheers, everyone. Bye.